Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Ben Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dhina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sudadevi Pranama Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Paditanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, thank you very much. So today's verse is very famous, like we said, number 15 of chapter 15. And the chapter is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. So please repeat, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto Matak Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarve Aham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham Savasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto Matak Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarve Aham Evedavadyo Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham. Okay, word for word, please. Repeat. Sarvasya. Of all living entities. Beings, sorry. Cha. And. Aham. I. Hridi. In the heart. Sanivishtaha. Situated. Mataha. From me. Smritihi. Remembrance. Jnanam. Knowledge. Abohanam. Forgetfulness. Cha. And Veder, by the Vedas, Cha, also, Sarver, all, Aham, I am, Eva, certainly, Vedya, knowledgeable, Vedanta Krit, the compiler of Vedanta, Vedavit, the knower of the Vedas, Eva, certainly, Cha, and Aham, I. So, translation Srila Prabhupada. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So, please repeat. I am seated in everyone's heart.
I am seated in everyone's heart.
And from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So, purport Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vedavyas is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. In commentation of the Vedanta Sutra by Veda Vyasadev in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The commentation of the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadev in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned souls, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of all his activities, and the giver of knowledge in the form of the Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad-Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus God is all good. God is all merciful. So, Andha Pravishtaha Shashta Jnanam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation of the Supreme Lord, situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yo so sarve veder giyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and the Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of Vedic philosophy, and the worship of the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 114 confirms this in the following words. Tattu samanvayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding the Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By understanding the different processes, one can approach him. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal. I'll repeat those 3 processes. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. 1. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Number 2. By performing the different processes, one can approach Him. That's sadhana bhakti, abhideya. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal. That is prayojan tattva, the goal, the necessity. Just mentioned shortly here. Who is no other, the supreme goal, who is no other, should be none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas is clearly defined. Yes. So, Prabhupada clarifies everything. So, Mukam karocha achalam pangam laite girim yad kripatamaham bande Sri Guru dinadarinam sarvasya chaham hridisani bisto matuk smritya jnanam apohanam cha vedesta sarvam aham eva vedyo vedantakrit vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Yes. So, this is Krishna, of course, speaking to Arjuna. This chapter is like a mini Bhagavad-Gita. It's only 20 verses long, but everything in the Bhagavad-Gita is compressed in one way or another in these 20 verses. The start is the banyan tree of the material world. The material world is compared to an upside-down banyan tree. Now, everybody knows that a banyan tree can become very complex. It grows from Lord Brahma. He is the empowered creator of the material universe. So the banyan tree grows different roots here and there and this and that. This is an analogy. It's meant to teach us that the material world is very complex and entangling. It is full of branches and twigs and so on and so forth. And once you enter into a banyan tree, once I read that there's a banyan tree somewhere in Bengal that is massive, it's almost 100 yards or something in size and everything. So once you go in, you don't know where the way out is or anything. You become completely confused. So the material world is like that, without knowledge. When you have no knowledge, you struggle around using the senses. You pick up knowledge from the sensual equipment of your body, and then you try to interpret it using the mind. So that is called pratyaksha, sensual perception, and then anuman is when we interpret it to mean this and that. So without knowing the Vedas, everyone has got a different interpretation of their life experience. So everyone has their opinion. Now the Maya Shakti has 2 subtle functions besides producing this banyan tree of earth, water, fire, air, ether, the working senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, the subtle mind, intelligence, false ego, chittam, contaminated consciousness, ahankara. So the living entity is in the middle of all this, trying to figure out what to do. And that is the natural function of a human being, to try and understand his situation. Once the soul enters the gross material body of an animal or a species or whatever, he never functions in that way. He never tries to analyze what the situation is. He just lives and tries to survive and maybe perhaps create offspring and so on and forth. But he's not a philosopher. But the subtle energy, when we're in the human form and we're ignorant of the Param Sattva, the Supreme Truth, the subtle energy, of Maya, produces all these gross effects. But there's also the Prasadmika Buddhi and Avarinatmika Buddhi. Prasadmika Buddhi means that the person in the banyan tree, looking here and there, this is called the throwing potency, comes to some conclusion about the nature of life. Again, to emphasize, only human beings come to these kind of philosophical conclusions. But then there is the Avarinatmika function of the Maya Shakti, that is called Avarinatmika, the covering potency. So everyone in the material world, they have some kind of conclusion that they've worked out through sensual perception and Anuman analysis, but they're also covered in such a way that they think that my conclusion is the correct one, Avarinatmika Buddhi. So they continue the ways of life in this way, working to achieve what they consider will be an improvement, mental or sensual happiness in the material world. But they're still in the banyan tree, and they're still bewildered by the complexity of material life. Particularly now in Kali Yuga, people are brainwashed into atheism. They think there's no purpose in life. In schools, everything, there was nothing, then there was a bang, and then there was everything. But that is not the knowledge given in the Vedas. The Vedas explain Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, or Krishna in the Gita, Matak Sarvam Pravartate. Everything has emanated from me. Even ultimately, though Lord Brahma is the subordinate creator of the material creation, everything has pravartate, emanated from Krishna. And so, the aim of human life is to become free from this banyan tree. Because we find in the Vedas that the material creation is not the whole of the Supreme Lord's creation. There is beyond this material world, Vaikuntha. This realm of matter is called Kunta Loka, place of anxiety. The spiritual world is the Vaikuntha. It is a place devoid of tension and anxiety. So the Vedas inform us of the full picture of the creation, that there is the material creation and the spiritual creation. And then they inform us that this material creation is not our true home, that we're in the cycle of birth and death. We are in this banyan tree, living a short life here, going to the next life, living a short life here, going here and there, but never really succeeding in true happiness or true enlightenment and eternal life. So that is the misfortune of material attachment. We are in this material world and we're trying to enjoy it. And we have a plan that is erroneous, but we're covered to think it is correct. And so we search for some improvement in our situation. But what does Krishna say? after the first section in the Gita, he says, one should cut oneself free from the complexity of material birth and death by the weapon of detachment. That one should not understand oneself as a material product. One should understand that I am not belonging to this material complexity, this vast banyan tree, but I am a spiritual being. And as Krishna says throughout the Vedas, I am actually eternal. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. I have an eternal nature. So why am I undergoing change of body all the time and bewildered by it? Chit, I am actually conscious being, but Chit in purified condition reveals knowledge. I have a minuscule of happiness in this material world, but if we connect with the Supreme Source, Krishna, through bhakti, we can bhakti rasamrita sindhu. We can live in the ocean of rasa eternally, exchanging with the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord's devotees rasa, mellow, and that this bliss is ever increasing and it is not threatened. Let's look at verse number 6 on this chapter. Natad bashyate surya. Here it is. Natad bashyate suryo nasanko napavaka yat gyatvan nivartante tad dharma paramam mama. That supreme abode of mine, this is not the supreme abode, but as Prabhupada pointed out in the paragraph there, that Krishna is present completely in this material world. Hriday say Arjuna Tisthati. I'm within the heart of everyone. I'm fully present here, just as much as I am present in the spiritual world. But this is not the supreme abode. The supreme abode of mine, this refers to Goloka and Haridam. In the Brahma Samhita, Golokla namni nididamni taleta tasya devi maheshu haridameshu teshu teja pravatitya vejastyena govindamadi purisham tamaham bhajami. There is 4 basic divisions in the creation. Durgadam, which is the banyan tree. Then there is Maheshdam. Then there is Haridam. And then there is Golokadam. These are the 4 basic divisions. So, the aim of human life is to break free. It's called moksha, freedom from the entanglement of this banyan tree. The first stage is detachment through knowledge. Through knowledge we become detached. So the Vedic literature is there. That supreme abode is not illumined by sun or moon. This material world is dark. There's no moon tonight, perhaps. The sun has gone, so the real nature of the material world is revealed. It is dark place. But the spiritual world, everything is transcendently effulgent. And it is, the spiritual world is not illumined by sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So there's no fall from the supreme abode, the transcendental planets. There's no fall from that region ever. So if we contemplate this and have a good understanding of it, we can gain detachment. Because we think, oh, this material world, there is always one problem after the other. Birth, death, old age, disease. There is trouble from my mind and body, trouble from different living entities, trouble from natural events. But that abode is eternal. And as Prabhupada said in today's purport, we have a spiritual body, and it is made of Satchidananda Vigraha. And the material time factor, Kala Shakti, earlier we heard from Krishna, he says, Kalosmi aham. I am all devouring death. I am time. Time is the ruler of this world, and it gives us and it takes away. So Krishna is explaining, you become free of that time factor and live in eternal time. And once you attain that abode, you never come to this world again. So once that is understood from the sadhus, from the spiritual teachers, from the Shastra, the living entity becomes detached. Now I'm going to strive for that place, having attained which I will never return to this troublesome material world. And this is the start of his determination to attain eternality. This is not without selfish concern. We hear in the Shastra that those in the supreme abode, they're completely devoid of selfish concern. They have seva-bhav. They want to serve. They want to serve the Supreme Lord. They want to serve the Supreme Lord's devotees. They want to serve the Leela of the Supreme Lord. They are completely Atmaram, self-satisfied. So they have no desire for their own aggrandizement. But in the material world, the opposite is true. We are very dissatisfied, and we're always trying to use living entities for our benefit. But the spiritual world is devoid of that selfishness. The material world, everyone is a selfish servant of the senses, of this body, mind. In the spiritual world, everyone is an unselfish servant of the Supreme. So that realm is illumined by truth. And that is the perception of all living entities. There is no mental speculation. There is no different philosophies. This is given, there's one verse, Yashadeve parabhakti yashadeve tatagaro tesyate kahita hyata prakasante mahatmana. Those who have realized implicit faith in Krishna and the bona fide spiritual master, to those great souls, prakashante mahatmana, the absolute truth is automatically revealed. So the spiritual world is not a place of doubt and confusion. There is an automatic, wholesome realization of the absolute truth. In this world, as we explained, there's confusion about what the actual situation is. We think, I'm the body, I'm the mind. I must act accordingly for the satisfaction of body and mind. But in the spiritual world, not only is it completely blissful and eternal, but there is a complete perception of the absolute truth. And once that abode is attained, it's never lost. Because that is the true home of the living entity. So Krishna, at the beginning of this chapter, he explains that the material world is like this banyan tree, and we should become free of it. And then he speaks about the living entities. They are mamai vangsa jiva loke, very famous verse. The living entities in the conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life in the banyan tree, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Now that leads on in to today's verse. Today's verse, the first two lines, Sarvasya Chaham Hridhi Sanivishto, they explain how the living entity who is undergoing transmigration, it explains how it becomes continually conditioned. If you remember, what is it? I am within the heart, and from me comes knowledge. So the living entity, he takes another body, but he awakens from childhood to teenage life, and then knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. As Prabhupada explained in the purport, he continues to maintain his same conditioning that gives him a certain desire. For example, somebody in the past life may have been a musician. They die. Then they're born again as in a musician's family. They grow up and they learn that they want to learn music again. So knowledge, Krishna gives him knowledge, and knowledge, remembrance. He gives him remembrance of his material propensities, and he gives forgetfulness of the other life. Mozart didn't know what his previous life is, but we can understand that he must have been a musician in his past life. At the age of 7, he was composing and writing music and so on. He was carried. So in this way, the living entity is served by Krishna in his ambitions in the material world. But then Krishna, after explaining in this middle section the process of transmigration, Krishna then says that, look, there is this material world where everyone is going through transmigration, but I am present here. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in all bodies of living entity, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs, those licked, done, and chewed. And then it comes to today. So Krishna is explaining that there is the banyan tree of this complex material creation, but he is present within it. He is not distant. Sometimes the sportsmen, they score a goal and they look up in heaven, thank you God, I scored the winning goal. But Krishna, the first point he says here is, Hridaya se Arjuna tisthati. I am within the heart of all living entities. I accompany all living entities. So we don't have to look up in heaven, and we should also remember that the Supreme Lord is supremely cognizant of our desires, and therefore he's giving us knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness to fulfill those desires. But at the same time, he is sending avatars to give us a choice. That is the human condition. So I'm giving you knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness, continuing your material lives. But, Arjuna, I want to tell you something. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Vedantakrit Vedavid. I am known by the Vedas. So the Vedas, what are the Vedas? The Vedas are the manual on the material and spiritual creation. They're compiled by Vedavyas. They explain the difference between the body and the soul. They explain the relationships of the soul to the Supreme Lord, Sambandhagyan. They explain Abhideya, the process of realization. And they also explain Prayojan, the goal of the material world. This is what the Vedas are doing. Vedas calls knowledge. Just like if you buy a smartphone, you also get a manual with it. So, and also we see even in this material world, a company creates some device. They also create a manual how to properly use that device. So the smartphone, we look in the manual and we learn how to use all the functions. So the Vedas are the manual that explain the nature of material spirit creation, how we should act within it, if we want this result, that result. But they recommend that you should get out of this material world. This is the Vedas. I am to be known. So that is the purpose. Now there is a sloka earlier, 4th chapter, 9 verse. Janma karma tame divyam evam yo viditatpataha. Those that understand my transcendental nature, evam yo viditatpataha, takva teham punarjanma naitimam iti sorjana. They never take birth again in this material world, but attain to my abode. So Krishna is saying that if you, and it's here in this sloka, by the Vedas I am to be known. Why is it important? Because if we actually realize the Supreme Lord, we become eligible to go to the spiritual world. Krishna explained later on, Bhakti-yoga abhijananti. By devotion I am known. And if we know Krishna, then we concomitantly know our relationship with Krishna, our Swarup. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd, 3rd canto, Bhuktir hitabam yata rupam swarupena abhavashtati. Bhuktir hitabam yata rupam. What is liberation from the material world? It is swarupena. We all have a spiritual body that is eternal, but it's lying in seed, just like a tree is lying within a seed. Within a seed there is the banyan tree. Within another seed there is the apple tree. Within another seed there is the peepal tree. So we all have a dormant relationship with the Supreme Lord. However, by the process of bhakti, we realize Krishna, and then we realize our relationship with Krishna. So the first part of success in bhakti is to realize the Supreme Lord, and then we realize our relationship with the Supreme Lord. And then we practice Raganuga Bhakti, because our relationship is awakening. Swarupena abhavashtati. So mukti means that I am no longer thinking I'm this material body, but I am realizing my spiritual nature in relationship to the Supreme Lord. What is that? Jivera Swarupoi Nityera Krishna Das. That this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's also Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sada Kabanai Shravanadi Sudachitte Karide Udai. The tree is in, how to say it, in compressed form, is within the seed. When that seed grows, the tree grows. So we all have a constitutional relationship with the Supreme Lord. When it's developed through bhakti, and the essence of bhakti is to realize the Supreme Lord. Because when we realize the Supreme Lord, we awaken our relationship with the Supreme Lord. Now this comes to another broader point, but the point is that you cannot really fully understand your spiritual nature without its relationship to the Supreme Lord. If you don't learn who the Supreme Lord is, if you don't realize the Supreme Lord, how can you understand your relationship to the Supreme Lord? You can't understand your spiritual nature in full without realizing its connection to the Supreme Lord. So this is an important philosophical point, but the point is that when you realize the Supreme Lord and Krishna is all attractive, you automatically become more and more attracted. He is all attractive. And this awakens our own relationship. Just for example, material example. Narendra Modi is Prime Minister of India. Right? But now, unless you know Narendra Modi, you can't really know you can't really enter into relationship with him. You may officially know he's the Prime Minister, but you don't know his activities, his personality. But when you actually become intimate with him, you realize his personality, his activities, and you realize your relationship with him. So Krishna can be understood in a distant way. He's the compiler of the Vedas, Vedavyas. He is the knower of the Vedas. He's the teacher of the Vedas. But unless you actually enter into relationship with Krishna, your relationship will lie largely dormant. And that's the problem with Mayavad. They meditate on just the effulgence of Krishna, or the yogi meditates on Paramatma. But bhakti is going to Bhagavan, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And therefore the full realization of our relationship grows in the light of that relationship. So Krishna is explaining all this in not compressed form, right? And now he returns to another point that's there earlier. There are two classes of being, the fallible and infallible. In the material world, everyone is fallible, and in the spiritual world, everyone is infallible. Why? Because they are now in relationship to the Supreme Lord harmoniously, and they are in relationship to all Krishna's devotees harmoniously. So they are infallible. But in the material world, like I said, everyone has a different opinion, everyone has a different goal, everyone is self-centered, trying to work out what to do. Besides these two, the infallible and fallible, therefore they're fallible in the material world, the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds, is maintaining them. So in the material world, there is the infallible and the fallible. But the Supreme Lord is in a different category, because He is the origin of all the principles. Because I am transcendental, this is the point, beyond the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. Whoever knows me, this is coming to a conclusion. Yo mam evam amasabado janati purushotam. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubt, that means it's directly realizing it's not just a mental conception, but through tapasya, through bhakti sadhana, he is realizing the Supreme Lord directly within his heart, within the creation, is the knower of everything. That's what I said earlier, that once you realize Krishna directly, and therefore you have implicit understanding of Krishna, then you become above the confusion of the material world, the banyan tree within your mind. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me. The last verse, this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, Arjuna, and it is now disclosed by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So there it is. There's the goal. To awaken our relationship with the Supreme Lord, become enlightened, become free from the banyan tree. And then we are taken by the Supreme Lord to the transcendental abode, where we remain eternally. And we achieve our true spiritual eternal form, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. And this eternal form does not change. There's no influence of material. Like all of us, we're all aging. Our material body has changed, but in the spiritual world, the material time factor is absent. Here we're controlled by time, but there spiritual time is the servant of Leela. Here we're controlled by space and dimensionality, but in the spiritual world, space and dimensionality is the servant of Leela. It is not restricted in any way. Everyone can sit next to Krishna on the bank of the Jamuna. Here in the material world, if there's 100 people, somebody's next to the... But in the spiritual world, space and time are servant of Leela. If Krishna wants to go in one step from Vrindavan to Radhakund, he can do it. But if he wants to stroll to Radhakund from Vrindavan, he can do that as he likes. And everything is woven in this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, an ocean of rasa. And so that is how we should meditate on the spiritual world, that it is the liberated condition that is our real home. And we are in this material world, but that is our real home. And we should understand that this material world is anartha, unwanted. And that spiritual transcendence is our real success. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, by all the Vedas. So you want... the progress of bhakti is progression of realization of the Supreme Lord. And that realization of the Supreme Lord includes everything. Janati Purushottam Sa Salvavid Bhajati Mam Sava Bhavena Bharata. So, any question? Points of clarification? Yes.
Thanks for the wonderful class, and I just help me understand this. Like as it said in the verse, that Krishna gives knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance.
Yes.
So, when in one way, the Paramatma is giving everything. Knowledge is giving forgetfulness and remembrance.
Yeah.
So, what has the living entity role in this? Like as a jiva, everything is given by Krishna itself, Paramatma. So, how does a living entity comes in become a sinner? Because when
become a what?
Become a sinner, like if
a singer.
Yeah.
Or you mean if he's in the past life?
Yeah.
Well, the first two lines there, they describe how we continue in our material aspirations, even though we're born again. Like I said, Mozart, in his past life, perhaps he was a great musician, he continued in his circumstances. So Krishna gives knowledge and remembrance. These things are encoded in the subtle mind of the materially conditioned. But that first two lines, and then he said, Vedanta Krit Vedavid, I am known by the Vedas. So that is a reference like I tried to say in class, that yes, if you want to continue in the material conditioning, Krishna will give you all intelligence to do so. But if you take to the Vedas, the Vedic knowledge, Shastra, Acharya, and bona fide Guru, then you can attain eternal life. That's the simple way to understand this sloka. So we have choice. That is the thing. In every age, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali Yuga now, the Supreme Lord incarnates or avatars and gives the process by which he can be realized. Right? In Satya Yuga it was meditation, Dwapara Yuga is temple worship, Treta Yuga is yajna, and now in Kali Yuga it is by Harinam Sankirtan. So Krishna makes that available and makes the Vedas available in every age. So we can choose. We can choose. Does that answer your question?
When we say Krishna gives the knowledge, so does it mean that Prabhu, you can come, give the knowledge to come back to Godhead? Or what,
yes.
What knowledge is?
Yeah, we can expand that too. Prabhupada said that in the purport, that if you want to realize the Supreme Lord, Krishna is Chaita Guru, right? There's in the Upanishads it explained that the living entity and Krishna are living in the tree of the heart. It's another analogy. And the super soul is within the tree of the body, the tree of the heart. And there's also another bird in that tree, and that is the individual living entity. So if that individual living entity wants to ignore the other bird, then Krishna, through his unlimited humility, will not interfere with our free will and our aspirations. But if the living entity, but he's waiting there, the other bird, Krishna, Super Soul, Chaita Guru, he is waiting for that jiva soul to turn to him and take inspiration and knowledge from him. So Krishna is Chaita Guru. That means he's the living entity. He is the guru of the living entity. So he's in every living entity's heart, particularly human beings. They can realize their relationship with Krishna. So Krishna, he gives that knowledge. He gives knowledge by which you can continue in your material aspirations, but he will also, if you desire, give you knowledge by which you can gain spiritual realization of him and transfer to the spiritual world. So you might ask, what is the key factor in being able to make that choice? Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. That Brahmanda Brahmite, that the living entity is wandering in the Brahmanda, the material universe. But if by fortune or desire he gets this association of the sadhu, the person who is spiritually situated, then he becomes, there's more to life than just material satisfaction. There's also many slokas on the same point. Sadhu Sangha, Sava Shastra Hoy, Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha, Sava Siddhi Hoy. So the touchstone is the sadhu. And they propagate the Vedic knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and inspire the conditioned souls to look for something other than material engagement. That is the thing. And then once that is done, therefore, then the sadhu gives instruction, bhajana kriya, ato shraddha, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya. From the sadhu, from the spiritual teacher, one learns how to perform spiritual life. Then anartha nivritti, the material condition becomes suppressed. Then one becomes nishtha, fixed in spiritual realization. Then comes ruchi. Then comes attachment, because one is getting ruchi, and this ruchi is better than any other material taste. Then bhava comes, and then prem comes. So it's progressive. And so Krishna, he guides the living entity through the improvement of his spiritual life from within the heart. If one takes, therefore it's always stated that, in the Nectar of Devotion, there's 64 items of spiritual life practices. The first 3 are to approach a spiritual master, surrender to his teachings, and practically carry them out. Also in the Gita, tadvidi pratipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeksha, that you should approach a spiritual teacher, inquire as to spiritual practice, and sevaya, you should serve those instructions. So the Supreme Lord is there, but the sadhu is his empowered representative. But at all times we have choice. Later on, when we're prem bhakta, then we don't consider leaving spiritual life. But when we're neophyte, we have to prove ourselves. We have to become renunciant. We have to discipline material life. There is one verse in the Brahma Samhita, Prabhude Jnana Bhaktibhyam Atmananda Chinmayi Udetutama Bhaktiya Bhagavat Prema Lakshana. The highest devotion, this is Krishna telling Lord Brahma at the end of 5th chapter, Brahma Samhita, is attained by slow degrees, by the constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of 3 things. Pramana, that means Vedic evidence. Then sadachairais, that means pure life, regulative principles, only taking foodstuffs that are accepted by the sadhacharas, and then nirantaram, perseverance in practice. So from the sadhu, from the teachers, we understand these things. And we understand, yes, today is another slow degree, another slow degree, slow degree, slow degree. Just like people, they want to get big muscles. So you go to the gym and you work hard every day. And then you end up with big muscles. So it's the same thing. Through tapasya, you can achieve things materially. You can become a football player or develop big muscles, but by following a certain routine. So the spiritual goal is attained by the tapasya of pramana, learning the shastric conclusions, then practicing them in a state of purity, and then not being deflected, trying, because in the neophyte condition, there is still our material conditioning is there. So that may interfere with our application to spiritual realization. But the devotee knows, I have to take shelter of the holy name, I have to read the Shastra steadily, and I have to progress steadily, even if there are difficulties. Right? Lord Brahma, he meditated for 100 celestial years on the lotus flower. The first word he heard as he came to external consciousness was tapa. Yeah. So what does tapasya mean? It means voluntary control of the mind and senses. That we have to make the decision. That is surrender. Surrender doesn't mean just become like empty-headed buffalo. that is whipped with a stick. No. Surrender means we surrender to the Sambandha Avideya Prayojan, the knowledge of Krishna consciousness given by the sadhus, by the bona fide spiritual teacher. But we have to make the decision. Just like there is also in the Gita there, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. To those that worship me, pritipurvakam, with loving attitude, that's beyond even knowledge. Oh, I'm offering you this nice apple with love. Didami buddhi yogam tam. I give them the intelligence, buddhi yogam. So this is very significant. Sadhana bhakti is often said to be buddhi yoga because you're using choice. Buddhi means intelligence. So with your intelligence, you are choosing what you want to do. So Krishna gives buddhi yoga. He gives you the ability, the knowledge to choose. And then if you keep, even if you have a problem, Krishna will give you intelligence how to pick yourself up. He will give you the intelligence how to come to him. Then the next sloka, Tesham evanukam patham aham agyana jamtama nashyami atmabhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. As we approach Krishna by making the right choices in our practice of bhakti sadhana, Krishna dispels the knowledge. So we have to prove to Krishna that we want him. You understand? That is sadhana siddha. That you perform the sadhana given by sadhus, by the shastra, and then you become siddha. Understand? So, in this age, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padaseva, these 9 practices are primary in awakening one's relationship with Krishna. But they're fenced by Vaidhi, So one should perform the 9 processes with pritipurvakam, with a loving attitude, not mechanically. Because yetam mam prapadyante, if you approach Krishna with loving attitude, you can offer Krishna an apple. I've done it, ring the bell. But if you take an apple and you offer it to Krishna with a loving attitude, then he will respond with a loving attitude to you. Do you understand? But if we go to Krishna and we offer an apple in a mechanical way, that's the reciprocation we will get also. Do you see the point? So bhakti is that continuous attraction to a loving attitude. Anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttam. So we have to practice loving attitude to our chanting, loving attitude to our study of the Shastra, loving attitude when we meditate upon Krishna, loving attitude when we do some pad sevanam, loving attitude when we do archanam, loving attitude vandanam when we recite the Brahma Samhita. We don't just go Chintamani Pragarasadmasugalpa Vriksha Laksa Vrideshu. No, we chant with loving attitude. That's the essence of bhakti, anukulyena. And then Krishna reciprocates. That's what attracts Krishna. So, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakya, all these things should be done with a conscious attitude of love, priti, affection. And Krishna then says, oh, he's my devotee. He gives perfection. And he gives us more clarification on the path by which we can reach him. Sadacharyas. So we should avoid, sadacharyas means there's 2 sides to it. One should avoid offenses and one should avoid pap. We should live a pure life. And then bhakti is very easy. Bhakti is very easy, actually, because we all know what loving attitude is, right? We love the wife, we love the children, this and that. We love our country, we love our school friends. So that affectionate attitude should be brought into the practice of bhakti. Understand? We practice that. Does that answer your question? And then Krishna gives knowledge by which we can go to him, you see. Dadami buddhi yogam tam ye namam upayantite. I think, oh, this person is sincere. Therefore, right in the Shastra, lolam, right? What does lolam mean? Lolam means desire. I want to become Krishna's devotee. There's that sloka, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Yoda Dadati Kaman. That out of all eternal beings, there's one supreme eternal. Out of all conscious beings, there's one supremely conscious being. Eko Yoda, that one is fulfilling the desires of all living entities. So Krishna is fulfilling he's not imposing. He is fulfilling our desire. If we want to, I'm not saying you, but if the living entity wants to remain in the material world, or he wants to go to Swagaloka, or he wants to go into Brahman, he will fulfill that. But the acharyas, they teach, Lord Chaitanya teaches, no, they're all distractions. Because the eternal situation is prem bhav. And compared to that, all the other things are of no consequence. Right? So we understand that from Shastra, from the acharyas, from the sadhu, and we cultivate bhakti, cultivate that loving attitude in our Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasek. And then we feel confident. Enthusiasm, patience, confidence, acting according to regular principles, giving up bad association, like that. Rupa Goswami has given 6 things. And then the devotee feels, yes, I'm on the right path. Because Krishna gives that knowledge, he gives realization. So every one of you, right, you're all devotees for a long time. Why? Because you're getting that realization of Krishna every day, right? It's not somebody else or just Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj. Every devotee is feeling, I'm realizing Krishna. And that's what leads him on. You see, that's why yoga is the religion of the future. Because it's not blind faith. It is faith based on union, realization, direct realization of the absolute truth. So many in Kali Yuga there are man-made shastras, man-made religious systems, and you just must believe. You must believe. You must have faith. But the Yoga Sutras, the yoga of the Vedas doesn't say that. They say, no, you gain faith by your realization. You understand? So Krishna gives that realization. And on the basis of that, we know I'm on the right path. We become drista, we become fixed. Enthusiasm, patience. Third one is confidence. Why? The devotee is confident because he's realizing Krishna. He's not just trying to believe. he's believing because he's experiencing. Right? Just like you chant Hare Krishna, you feel, you experience spirituality. But it's important to combine that with tapasya. You see? a kind of pratyahar, a kind of withdrawal from material aspiration. You see, you can't have a foot in both camps, chanting Hare Krishna and then going to the cinema and so on and so forth. You understand? So all the great sadhus, they increase their withdrawal from material activity naturally, because they become realized in a higher taste. Param drisvani nivartate. Does that answer your question? So we'll finish at this point. I thank you for your kind attention. See you next Friday, I hope. And remember, do all your devotional practices with Priti Purvakam. Try to conjure up some loving devotion, knowing that Suridam Sarvabhutanam, Krishna is the best friend. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada Sadhu Sangha Bhagavad-Gita Ke. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you too. Huh? Oh, this is giving irritation. Oh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.